Hey, welcome to Thread. Thanks so much for joining us for today's sermon. We hope that it ministers to you, that it uplifts you, and ultimately we hope that you encounter God today.
Something I want to make crystal clear is that favor is found in unity with God. Favor is found in unity with God. Favor is found when you have His heart and His mind. It's when you feel what He feels and you think what He thinks. It's when your thoughts become His thoughts, when your ways become His ways. Here's the principle. Favor is unlocked through unity with God. Here's what Psalms 133 says. Behold, how good and pleasant it is when brothers dwell in unity. It is like the precious oil on the head, running down on the beard of Aaron, running down the collar of his robes. It is like the dew of Hermon, which falls on the mountains of Zion, for their Lord has commanded the blessing, life forevermore. So when you are in one heart and one mind with God, blessing or favor will find you. So there's a lot of things that unlock favor because the Lord cares about a lot of things. So things like generosity, obedience, love, mercy, forgiveness, devotion, adoration, all sorts of things are ways that you can partner with God's heart and His mind. But this year, God is calling us into unity with Him. We're going to ask the Lord for His heart and His mind. We're going to ask for unity with the Father. Our prayer this year will be, let me feel what you feel and think what you think. Now, this is a dangerous prayer because it's impossible to ask the Lord for His heart and His mind and do nothing. Let me say that again. It is impossible to pray the prayer, God, let me feel what you feel and think what you think and do nothing. It's like, how can you see the hungry in our city and catch God's heart and His mind and do nothing? How can you see lost people who are on their way to an eternal separation from God and have His heart and His mind and do nothing? How can you see hurting people in need of Jesus and do nothing? Isaiah 61 says this, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because He has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison doors to those who are bound, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn. Thread, we're still the same church God has asked us to be. We're still the same church that said, Lord, would you break our hearts for what breaks yours? We're still the same church that says, God, would you give us the gift of a broken heart? We're still the same church that's got tears in the carpet. We're still the same church whose culture reads, it's an honor to waste our life in pursuit of Jesus. We are a drink offering so that the region might live, and it's not radical, it's reasonable. Thread, the Lord encouraged us last year. He strengthened us. He rebuilt us. He repaired us. He got our feet underneath of us. We spent an entire year just getting the church in order. We spent a year figuring out who we are, what God's asked us to be. We said last year that it was a year of building the house of the Lord, and we have done that. Thread, let me say that again. We have done it. We did the work so that we can go out. We built the house so that we can love the city. We built our lives so that we can reach the lost. We did the inner work so that we can begin to actually be the church that God has asked us to be. So, Thread, I have a big announcement. In 2025, we have a new responsibility to serve this city. We have a responsibility to serve the city. Feel the Lord inviting us to serve this city in 2025. I want to remind you what we said on our prophetic Sunday, that this is a year of being in union with God, where we will serve the city and run towards the lost. We are coming into unity with the Father, where we will have His heart and His mind. There is a new wave of creative outreach coming to Thread this year, where we will find excuses to end up where people are. I was at the park last year and I saw moms planning play dates with the intention of telling other moms about Jesus, I was reminded of the term, the weepers will become the reapers. And then I heard the Lord say, release the reapers. Some of you have felt like you've been being held back from the city as we have focused on building the Lord's house. But I heard the Lord say, let your heart burn again. Some of you have had a dream in your heart about how to reach the city or reach other people. And I heard the Lord say, or I saw a green light over you. And I heard the Lord say, it's time to run. I want to show you a clip from our installment service. This was back literally a year ago, almost 2 months ago. 2 months from today will be a year. So watch this clip real quick.
You are entering into a season of favor where you have found favor before your King. As you've wept in your room, as you've wept in your office, favor has come on you. Favor has come on you. Favor has come on you, Thread Church. Favor, the permission to plant, the permission to build, the permission to pastor, the permission to father in the city. And I heard the Lord say this, if you want Cleburne, serve it. Serving unlocks the favor in the city. Pray right now as you serve this city, the Lord will give you inch by inch, block by block, acre by acre as you serve it. Woo! I heard the Lord say he will never give you more than you're willing to serve.
In 2025, we will unlock favor as we serve the city. But we won't just serve the city. We're going to serve our city with a new mentality. I've called this our 1 year mentality. 1 year mentality. I felt the Lord say this, that there will be a sense of urgency on you to reach the lost this year. I heard the Lord say, what would you do if you knew you only had 1 year left? That I felt an urgency to reach the city, an urgency to go for salvation, and an urgency to do what God has asked you to do. Thread, I want to remind you that Jesus is in fact coming back. And we are not promised tomorrow. And some of us serve Jesus and serve those around us like we got 40 years to reach our neighbor. But I feel a tenacity and a passion coming up inside of Thread where we will be compelled by God to see the furthest heart, and we will feel a spiritual urgency. Thread, can a nation be born in a day? I believe it can. There is a quickening coming to the work of the Lord, but there is also an urgency coming to the workers of the Lord. What would you do if you knew you only had 1 year left? What would outreach look like if 2025 was our last year to do it? What would invites look like if we had till December to reach the entire city? What would our urgency look like if we operated with a 1 year mentality? I wanted to remind you that complacency has no place in the body of Christ. For the Lord has asked for workers to be sent into the harvest. And I believe that Thread will respond, here am I, send me. But I felt an urgency to warn you that there is a war on your unity with this word. There is a war on your unity with the heart of God, on your unity with the mind of Christ, and your unity with the vision of this house. The enemy hates Thread. Let me say that again. The enemy hates Thread. The enemy hates the church in Cleburne. But what the enemy really hates is when the church gets outside of the church. Like you want to upset some demons, you want to upset some principalities, start doing what the Bible actually says to do about reaching out to the city around you. Look, whether it was the Lord or the enemy, Thread once was in a church building, and now we don't have a property. We ended up now inside of a city building. And now we write a check every month to the city of Cleburne for our rent. Like, let me just tell you this, because we have moved into this property, we are now friends with city officials. We are now building relationships with movers and shakers within this city. Like, could it be God that we are here? Could it be God that we are in this building? Could it be God that we are in this season? Thread, we got to quit licking our wounds from losing a property. And at some point, we got to realize that the Lord was with us at the beginning. He's with us now, and he'll be with us on the end. He has worked all things together for our good. And the enemy has been resisting us, but he has not been writing our story. In fact, I think he's more mad that we are where we are now than he was mad that we were in the building that felt like a miracle. See, watch. We begin to serve the city with boldness and courage, then suddenly the enemy starts to take notice, and he's been warring against our unity. Why? Because Psalms 133 declares that how good and pleasant it is when brothers dwell in unity. It's like the precious oil on the head, meaning it's like the anointing. The anointing rests in unity. It flows down on the head, meaning it starts with those in authority or in leadership, flows down onto the beard and onto the beard of Aaron, running down onto the collar of his robes, meaning it rolls down all the way to the bottom. Meaning if you want authority in your life, you want authority in your prayers, then you got to be in unity with your leaders. And then the Bible says this, it's like the dew of Hermon, which falls on the mountains of Zion, for there the Lord commands a blessing, life forevermore. So favor literally rests in unity. Authority and anointing literally rests in unity. And life, energy literally rests in unity. Now, let me remind you, there's an attack of witchcraft coming against Thread in 2025. Let me remind you of our prophetic Sunday. This is what I said. Warning, sirens going off. Be aware of witchcraft coming against you. This is what I said. I felt like I was supposed to tell you that the enemy has sent witchcraft against our church as a final attempt to derail us, because the enemy knows when favor is unlocked, he won't be able to touch us. Hear me, resist the enemy and he will flee. This is not another attempt, it's a final attempt. Let me say that again. This is not another attempt, it's a final attempt. And I wanted to remind you, this is a year where you find yourself in the mercy, the undeserved kindness of God. And just like Jezebel fell out of a window in a 5-year, which means window, wouldn't it be just like God to cast out the spirit of Jezebel out the window and watch her be eaten by dogs? I'm telling you, this is the year that witchcraft loses its power in your life. So hear me clearly. Hear me clearly. Like, we all want to shout and jump and dance, do our shout music dance right there. But watch, the enemy has and will continue to send witchcraft against Thread. I had a dream on Thursday night where I felt like people were coming to attack Silas. It felt like this apocalyptic moment. Me and Brenda were living in this car, and Brenda had gone to work, and it was a really weird dream. Let me just tell you it was weird. Brenda had gone to work, and I just knew in the dream that something was wrong. And then I felt all these people start trying to come around our car, and they were coming to try and kidnap Silas. But then at the last moment, all these police cars came out of nowhere and kicked out everybody that was trying to attack us. What I felt in the dream, or what I felt when I sent it to some of our intercessors, they said, when you said that, I felt that Silas represented Thread. And the enemy has sent an attack against Thread, but the Lord will in fact deliver us. But notice it was marked by fear. And then that same night, Brenna had a dream where people came to visit our house. But even though they looked like people we knew, Brenna knew that they were witches disguised as familiar faces. They came up to our house, but because Brenda had this discernment that they were witches, she refused to let them into the house. She just had this knowing, if I say, come on in, that they would be welcomed into the house. But they went back to their car, and then when Brenda didn't let them in, they went back to the car, and they just sat in this car. But in the car, there was 2 people that came to the door that looked like familiar faces, but there was another person who didn't come out of the car, and this person, Brenda, felt like it was a witch who was controlling the whole operation. Now, Thread, the enemy has been coordinating an attack against us. He has sent witchcraft, and it will come from unsuspecting places, but it will often look like familiar faces. Let me say that again. Witchcraft will come, and it will come from unsuspecting places, but you need wisdom and discernment to see it because it will come in familiar faces. And when the enemy tries to take out the church, the Lord will come in, and he will, in fact, resist the attack on our behalf. But this attack is not just another attack. Let me remind you, it's a final attack because witchcraft is about to be overthrown in our city. I was praying with Pastor Chris at Mercy Culture, and we were in downtown Cleburne. We were praying, walking in the city, and I said, what do you feel? What do you sense? What do you hear? And he goes, well, first thing I feel is that there's very few witches left. And what he meant by that was that the spirit of witchcraft is losing its power in the city. And so, Thread, the Lord is about to extend his vengeance on our city, and he is about to war against the things that have been tormenting this region for generations. There's coming a fresh freedom over this city. There's coming fresh life to this city. There's coming favor to this city. Now, let me just pastor you for a moment. When I say it's coming in unsuspecting ways, but through familiar faces, please, 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 I am not telling you to go on a witch hunt and look for who is operating in witchcraft in our church. That's not what I'm saying. Hey, can I be honest? Witchcraft can come and you can be utilized by the spirit of witchcraft and not even know it. And so I want to tell you what witchcraft feels like so you can better understand it. And then when someone is operating in it, again, I feel like it's going to come from familiar faces, meaning it might come from even people in our church or people that you know personally. And what I feel is the Lord is going to give us signs or let us see and have discernment to recognize, oh, this is witchcraft at play, not so that you can cut off relationship from them, but so you can bring godly correction and say, hey, this feels like we're operating in a spirit that's not a spirit of unity with our house, and I feel like God is ushering you to come back closer. Okay, so hear me. We're not going on a witch hunt. Please, please. If you come up to me and say, Alex, you gave that word, it's prophetic, the prophetic word, the witchcraft's come against us, and I know who it is, please. I will never forget, we had just started Thread, and someone came up to me and they said, hey, you know so-and-so's a witch? I didn't know this person. I'm like, if they're a witch, they're a pretty bad one, like they ain't even spooky, but so I'm not looking for you to find the witch, okay? That's not what I'm asking for you. I'm asking you to be spiritually aware and know the spirit behind what's going on, okay? And recognize the spirit at play behind the interaction you may be having. Like, have you ever gotten a text message and then all of a sudden, like, this fear of dread comes all over you and your heart starts racing and you're just like, oh God, what's going on? What's going on? Or someone just makes a comment. Like, I remember even this past week, Brenna, my wife, operated in the spirit of witchcraft because, Jezebel's all over her. No, I'm just kidding. But my wife, Brenna, she just came up to me and she said, hey, is so-and-so leaving the church? And just as soon as she said it, my heart started racing, and I start pulling up my phone. I'm like, okay, let's figure out what's going on. Let's look at the planning center, what's going on. Like literally, this dread came over me. And it wasn't that my wife was being a witch. It is that a spirit of witchcraft was coming in and play. Does that make sense? So I'm not saying, so we're all cutting off Brenna. If you want to cut off Brenna, you got bigger problems, My wife is the nicest person I know. And so I want to show you the effects of witchcraft, First one is anxiety. Anxiety. The Bible says that the Lord has not given you a spirit of fear, but what a power, love, and a sound mind. So if you are operating or feel like things or situations have been getting more anxious or anxiety driven, I'm telling you, you might be experiencing witchcraft. Another one, torment in your sleep. Torment in your sleep. This looks like nightmares, night terrors, kiddos having nightmares and night terrors. If you're having dreams and you feel like you're seeing snakes in your dreams, that's often a sign of witchcraft. Or maybe it's an inability to sleep, insomnia. Another effect of witchcraft would be depression and suicidal thoughts. If you feel like a spirit of heaviness or feel like ultra heavy, feel like ultra exhausted, or the spirit of death or suicide, friend, you might be dealing with the effects of witchcraft. Another one is confusion. This is when you're having a discussion and nothing seems to make sense. You can't get anywhere. Every time you think you're getting somewhere, the argument changes. It's a spirit of confusion. The often effects of witchcraft. Another one would be fatigue and exhaustion. fatigue and exhaustion. Now let me pastor you, Thread, because I've heard a lot of murmuring about fatigue and exhaustion. Fatigue and exhaustion, meaning I've heard down through the grapevine that some of you guys are very, very tired and worn out and exhausted. Now let me pastor you for a moment. If you're exhausted because you're working 90 hours a week, that's not a spiritual attack. That's crazy work schedule. If you're exhausted because your kids keep you up till 2 a.m. every night, that's not a spiritual attack. I mean, it might be demons in your kids, but that's another topic for another day. But if serving at Thread for you is exhausting you to the point where you're like, I just can't do it anymore, friend, you might be having, it could be completely that it's too much whatever. It might be just it's another thing added to your already crazy plate. But can I pastor you for a moment? It might actually be an assignment of witchcraft come against our church to burn us out before we even get started. Okay? Now, another one, fights and discords or gossip. It's an attack to try and pull your heart away from something. It's like an injection of disunity. Warning against husbands, be careful what you plant in your wife's heart, because what you bring to the table is seed, and what your wife brings to the table is multiplication. And so if you go and just start if you're yeah, our pastor is just crazy, don't be surprised when your wife starts going and being yeah, Pastor Alex is the craziest person I've ever known, because it multiplies. You just got to be aware, husbands, how are you stewarding your wife's mind? How are you stewarding her heart? And sometimes we got to be careful as husbands that we don't just fly off the handle, because then what we're actually doing is sowing seeds that your wife will then multiply. Lack of unity is another effect of witchcraft. When you can't get behind your spouse, can't get behind your church, your leader, or in the same way that you used to. Unity feels like anything is possible. A lack of unity feels like nothing is possible. So if you're looking at when you're talking with your wife, you're man, everything feels exhausting so hard, nothing will ever work out. Friend, it might just be an assignment of witchcraft. Another one is strong sexual desires or temptations. I want to remind you of our prophetic Sunday where I said temptation will come back in ways that it has before, and I felt like you would close the door. But then I felt that the enemy would come back with a greater temptation. But I was reminded of Potiphar's wife, a great and obvious temptation, and it had the feeling of not getting caught. But this is a warning for you. When obvious temptation comes, recognize that the enemy is overplaying his hand. Now, another one is sickness and infirmity. Sickness and infirmity. If your family is consistently sick, you might have mold in your house, for sure, or you might need to change your diet and stop living off of chicken nuggets every day. But it could also be an assignment of witchcraft, okay? Another one is rebellion. Now, rebellion is different than just operating in disunity. This is where you don't want to come into unity. You don't want to try and come under what the visions is being cast. And you're actively trying to pull other people to get onto your team or onto your complaints. Another one would be resistance to encounter God. One of the biggest signs that I'm encountering witchcraft is when I'm feeling something on this list, but then I know that I need to encounter, but I don't want to. If you don't want to encounter, don't want to take communion, whatever, friend, you're probably encountering witchcraft. So let me pastor you. I'm giving you the word of the Lord for this year. That this is a year we're going to serve the city. Yeah, I'm so excited. But let me help you. Serving the city is not just for my personal encounter. It came initially, what I believe from the Lord, from our apostolic elders in our installment service, then was confirmed by me in my daily encounters, and then affirmed by our elders through our elder meetings. So hear me, there is already unity around this word. So let me pass to you. An attack of witchcraft has come against our church, and it's made our serve team feel more exhausted than you did at your last church when you served more. Friend, recognize something. We do one encounter a week, and that is it. We do one thing for 5 hours, one time a week. That's it. And some of y'all guys are coming from old churches where you had men's meeting on Monday night, you had women's meeting on Tuesday night, you had youth group on Wednesday night, and then you had a leader meeting on Thursday, and then you had potluck on Saturday, and then you got men's breakfast on the next Saturday, and then I'm just telling you, like, your last place had like 9 things going on, and you were fine. But you come into a church that's doing one thing, and you're exhausted. Friend, I'm not telling you that, like, yeah, thread runs fast and all this stuff. But friend, we ain't even really running yet. We barely walking. And if we're exhausted, can I challenge you? Number one, yes, it might be that your life is crazy. Absolutely. If your life is crazy, I am not talking to you. But if you're like, man, a year ago, 2 years ago, everything was great. But when I start coming to thread, I just can't help but feel so daggum tired all the time. I feel like I want to quit every single Sunday. Friend, hear me. It's an assignment of witchcraft. It's an assignment against our church. If you're tired and you, like, let's be really honest. We do not allow serve team members to serve more than twice a month, which means every one of you are getting more Sundays off than you did at any other of your last churches. It also means that whenever you come to us in leadership and you say, Alex, Pastor Brenna, Pastor so-and-so, leader, I'm having a really hard time and I just really need to take a break. Every one of those conversations, except for one I know of, and I only know of one because it was Jessica, and she came with me in like November, and she said, Alex, I'm having a hard time. I feel like I need to quit. And I said, I felt from the Lord that you're supposed to stay and hang on for a minute. Remember that conversation? That is the only time that we have ever turned down someone who said, I need to step down from leadership. I need to step down from serving. I need to take a break. We have never once told you, no, you're wrong. You're just being a weenie. You need to run harder. We have never once done that. So let me pastor our church. Again, if you're like, this is my first time, this is intense. You're sitting on the armchair. We're having a family talk. Let me be plain. I don't think your burnout is a workload issue. It's not a setup issue. It's not we're a mobile church issue. I believe it's an attack of witchcraft against this house. Always about to burn out every month, 2 months, 3 months. You feel like I need to quit. Friend, feeling heavy when you think about the church, feel like everything is too hard for us to do, feeling anxious about what's on your plate, feel like you're not as with us as you once were, feel like you don't want a daily encounter, feel like you don't want to pray. Friend, you're not in sin, you're not weak, and the church isn't struggling. Friend, it's an attack called witchcraft. But let me remind you, it's not another attack. It's a final attack. Because a favor year is a vengeance year, and the Lord will in fact repay everything that was stolen, and he will vindicate his people. If you've been struggling with heaviness, a garment of praise is coming to your house. If you've been in a season of mourning, a beautiful headdress is coming to your house. Why? Because it's a year of the Lord's favor. So let me challenge you, let me pastor you again for a minute. If you've been feeling exhausted, can I just challenge you and just pastor you? You need to pray in the Spirit until that thing lifts. What do you do? What do I need to do? Pastor, do I just need to start warring against witchcraft? No, that's dumb. That's dumb spiritual warfare. You don't need to start going, I cast down all the witches. Please don't do that. Because what will happen is it'll come on you 10 times worse, all right? And so it's like going into battle. I heard Pastor Landon say this one time. He said it's like going into battle with a machine gun, I got a machine gun. I'm going to run it. It's like now all the enemy knows exactly where to start shooting their guns at because you're going out and going crazy. So I'm not telling you to go crazy because really spiritual warfare is simple for the believer because all I have to do is lift up the higher authority. I have to place myself under the authority of Jesus. You know what the best way to kill witchcraft is? Take communion. Why? Because you're saying, I'm coming under the authority of the blood and the body of Jesus. You're lifting up a higher authority. I'm telling you, friend, If you're struggling right now today with heaviness, exhaustion, burnout, I'm telling you, you might just need to lift up a higher authority and watch as that thing lifts. Now, practically, what does this look like? What does serving the city look like? I'm almost done. You won't go to lunch late, all right, promise. But what does serving the city look like? Well, I'm really excited. Honestly, I'm really excited for this. We got a lot of cool opportunities. Number one, I called Open Door Church in Burleson, and I asked them, hey, do you guys still do your food bank? And they said, yeah, we do. We do a food bank, and we do it twice a month. I said, cool. Would it be all right if we sent out some volunteers once a month to go and partner with your food bank and hand out food to the hungry in our city? And they said, yeah. And they said something really interesting. They said, we used to get churches to partner with us all the time, but since COVID, you're the first church to reach out. And so once a month, we're waiting on dates from them, so I don't have a date to announce, but once a month, our church is going to go, and we're going to hand out food and pray for people in the food lines, and we're going to begin to feed our city. I'm telling you, there's an anointing that happens when you begin to feed the hungry. I can't explain it, but the Lord just does something supernatural when you begin to feed the hungry. And what I really believe is going to happen is you're going to, when we go out and we begin to serve the city once a month through feeding at the food bank, what I believe is going to happen is your eyes are going to be open to the need that's in our region. Because a lot of times, like, if you ain't hungry, you don't know. But when we go out, we're going to see, oh, dang, they're driving that, and they got how many families represented in this car, and oh my gosh, I'm telling you, when you go out and you begin to see the actual need in our city, it will open your eyes, and you cannot turn that thing off. So one Saturday a month, we will go out, and we will we'll begin to feed Cleburne. It's really cool, too. The food bank actually has a Cleburne address, and so it's really special to me. They hand out literally millions of pounds of food every year. It's literally outrageous, and so what a privilege it is to get to serve them. So once a month, we're going to be doing outreach one Saturday a month as well. And so we're going to literally go into Cleburne, and we're going to begin to share the gospel and tell people. We're trying to nail down a date with 33rd Company at Mercy Culture to have them come out and train us on how to do outreach. And then we're literally going to go out and start doing outreach once a month. I believe that the field and the harvest is ripe, and I believe that we just need to send workers out. And so I'm believing that it's going to be a quick harvest. I believe that our church, literally what I believe is going to end up happening is our church is going to starting to get just packed out with a bunch of lost people who come to know Jesus. And so, like, I ain't interested in building a church off a bunch of church hoppers, you know? Like, I want to build our church off the lost, off the needy, off the people who actually need Jesus. Now, in the summer, we're going to be doing block parties. We're going to go to some apartment complexes all over our city, and we're going to do literal block parties. We're going to preach the gospel. We're going to try and hand out food. We're going to do a literal party with inflatables, go wild in the summer. And so, again, more dates will come as we get closer to the date. But one of the things I'm most excited about is our Heart for Thread offering this year. Kayla, if you want to come up. Last year, Heart for Thread was to build a house for the Lord. And we've done that. And I felt the Lord challenge our church that Heart for Thread this year would not go to Thread, but that Heart for Thread this year would partner with the Lord's heart for our city. That every dollar would be invested into Cleburne. I showed you guys the financials, you know, like I showed you. That's 18% of our giving for this year. That's a step of faith to say 18% is going to be invested into the city. Now, that could look like Thread doing initiatives. That could look like funding our block parties. That could look like funding different outreach things that we do in the city. There's no telling what that could look like specifically. But I want you to hear from me as your pastor. That could also look like us investing in other churches' ministries. That could look like us partnering with other people that are doing something better than we are, because I'm not after just trying to put our name on everything. I just want to do what God's asking us to do. And so, Heart for Thread this year, I was talking to our elders about it, and if I can just be candid, I was talking to our elders and I said, I feel like we're supposed to give it away. And my elders said to me, they said, Alex, I don't know if Thread will give like they gave last year if they know it's not going to their church. Can I be honest with you? I'm thinking the same thing. This is why it's so important that we got to catch the Lord's heart. We've got to come into unity with his heart and his mind. And can I tell you, the Lord is asking us this year to be selfless instead of being selfish. Like some of you guys, you're thinking, yeah, Heart for Thread this year is going to go to a down payment on a building. Yeah. No, it's not. It's not going to a building. I don't know when we're going to get a building. We may never get a building. Well, Pastor Alex, we really need to hire X, Y, and Z, and we need to do X, Y, and Z with this money, and what we could do so much more with it here. Friend, our Heart for Thread offering is just our opportunity to partner with God's heart for his city. So can I challenge you for a minute? Oh, we got boys running. Everybody's running. They're like, Pastor's preached too long. But can I challenge you for a minute? We've got to let our heart break again for our city. We've got to allow our hearts to not just be puffed up with us. I was praying for you and I asked the Lord, what's the biggest issue with Thread? And I heard the Lord say, Thread is thread focused. He said, it's hard, if we can keep the kids real still. I know we got a lot of them. I know it. Just for 5 more minutes, if we can just please keep the kids still. I felt the Lord tell us that Thread is thread focused, that we're bloated, that we've allowed ourselves to become focused on us. And your burnout has actually been caused because the only thing that you can look at is you. I felt the Lord say that new life would come to our church as we begin to look out at the city. That when we take our eyes off of us and this thing and this church and we begin to see with eyes of faith at the city God has asked us to love, that passion would come back to your heart. Some of you guys, your passion's been dead for a long time. Passion's coming back this year. Some of you guys, you felt like, I don't know why, but I just felt like I just haven't been as excited about what God's doing. Friends, because we've been focused on us. And Thread, for a season we needed to be. For a season we had to focus on us. Because for a season it was like, how are we going to survive? When are we going to church next week? But friend, that season is over. It's time for us to shake off the last season and to step into what God's asking us to do today. So Thread, I'm asking you to be obedient, to stretch yourself in generosity this year. Not because Thread needs a new sound system, not because we need to buy new lights, not because we're going to build a new campus, but because we love the city that God has asked us to love. Because our hearts are broken for people that don't know him, and we will go and stop at nothing until the whole county is saved. For I'm telling you, we have got to find our passion again. Why? Because what if we only have 1 year left? What if Jesus comes back in January 2026 and the talent that he looks at us and says, what did you do with it? Was it our cash? What if it was our time? And he said, I told you, you had a year left. What'd you do with it? Friend, I'm telling you today, our church has gotten fat. We've gotten bloated because the only thing we've been doing is this. And God is asking us to step out in faith and trust him again and love the city that he has asked us to love. Lord, it's time to serve the city. It's time to serve the city. Felt the Lord say about 2025 that 2025 is the year that Thread finds its song again. That this is a year of shouting and singing. That this is the year you get your joy back. This is the year that we will find the garment of praise. And this year, disappointment is falling off of you as you begin to dream again. Third, I want to remind you, I want to encourage you that we will serve this city with joy. That as we step out and we begin to preach the gospel, that it's not going to be a chore to us. It'll be the most fun thing we've ever done. That this is going to be a year filled with passion and filled with joy and excitement. I'm telling you, Thread, we're coming back to our roots. We're coming back to who we've always been. We're coming back to what God has always asked us to do. He called us to this region to break our hearts again. I'm telling you, Thread, this is the year that we find our favor, not just because we do good church services, but because we actually live the gospel out and find the lost and find the hurting and bring them into the church to find Jesus.